Hello from Dorval. My name's Ritchie Henman, and I have a book out called High Adventure, Tales of Canadian Rock and Roll Survival. Chronicles the adventures of a wild-eyed kid, me, from Chester Basin, Nova Scotia, a very small village. I became a music fan, I learned to play some musical instruments, and I got in some bands and had the time of my life. And it's all in this book, High Adventure. I'm going to read from the final chapter, which doesn't give away any ending. There are endings and beginnings throughout the book. The final chapter is a fun collection of anecdotes of the strange things that can happen when you play in a rock and roll band. So here we go. I'm going to read an anecdote from the bonus tracks section. This is called The Vanishing Bass Player. When we moved to St. John, New Brunswick in August 1967, David and I started our next band, Banana Splat, with a bass player named Norm Ricketts, an acquaintance of guitarist Bob McLean. After our first two practices, Norm failed to appear. His phone number showed as no longer in service, so Bob went looking for him, only to discover that he had suddenly left town with no forwarding address. 18 years later, David and I were starting a new band in Montreal with Walter Rathie from Cruiser on keyboards, and put the word out that we were looking for a bass player. Who should appear but Norm Ricketts, now living like us on Montreal's West Island. We practiced for 2 weeks at Norm's and then played our first gig at a club in the East End of Montreal. 2 days after the gig, David Wally and I showed up at Norm's house with our gear for the next scheduled rehearsal, as arranged when we packed up after the club gig. The house was empty, the phone was out of service, and we never saw him again.